Well, good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone can hear me in the virtual world out there. Thumbs up. Yep, got it. Very good. Welcome to our webinar this morning. Very exciting topic as we talk about ESG and sustainability and the opportunities that is offered. We had some nice conversations yesterday about how businesses could get involved. And certainly this is an issue for businesses around the country wanting to make their communities more sustainable. Certainly it's an issue for government as they look for solutions for environmental issues in their states and their communities. And certainly it's an issue for landowners. As I know as an ag producer myself, I'm always looking for ways to cheapen my costs by making my soil better and figuring out ways to make a few bucks to pay bills, especially with the cattle market in the last few years. So it's going to be a nice conversation today, and glad you all could join us for it. My name is Dale Steenbergen. I'm President and CEO of the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce, and we see this as a really neat business opportunity for this part of Wyoming and really the entire country. We're pleased to have three groups with us today, actually: the Carbon Asset Network, Encore Green Environmental, and Synergy for Ecological Solutions. I think to kick things off today, we're going to start off with a video by our governor, Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon. Couldn't join us in person, but he did make a video for us. So let's take a listen to the video.
Good morning and welcome. You're joining a webinar hosted by Encore Green that is bound to be very informative and forward-looking. I appreciate the opportunity to welcome you and have a few minutes of your time today. We all know that Wyoming is facing a vast number of challenges, seemingly from all directions. The Biden administration seeks to end all fossil fuel use, or at least that appears to be in their agenda. I believe that view is short-sighted, though, and misguided. Coal, oil, and gas can be part of the solution to climate change. Wind and solar have impacts just like everything else, and we must take a very objective, very fair look at all these things in concert. The president may want to run a climate litmus test for all our traditional energies, but if he does, he better take a hard look at the consequences of removing them. You know, I remain hopeful that some in the administration will see the value of fossil fuels and these industries, especially with regard to what they have already done to approach the carbon capture issue. I also believe that they will realize the value of our open spaces and our ranches and farmers, stewards of some of the most precious places we have. Farmers and ranchers have long understood the dynamics of soils, crops, and carbon. Even without knowing it, they were doing it. This is where you all come in. The ecosystems our farmers, ranchers, and scientists help manage are carbon capture facilities already. Soil health is at the very base of nearly all of our ecosystem issues. Whether we're talking about rangeland setting or a furrowed field, it all comes back to the soil. I firmly believe that our producers are among the best in the nation, and they can lead the way to increased carbon capture. I also believe we should lead the nation. A combination of sound agricultural practices, many of which we already do, and mechanical carbon capture can help our economy keep our mineral industry strong. The economic beneficiaries include individuals, the state as a whole, and even our nation and the globe. Simple changes can have dynamic and dramatic effects, both good and bad. And that's why today's webinar is so important. We all need to learn together to maintain our way of life, and that starts with events like this. As we approach these new issues, we must remember where we've come from and capitalize on the wealth of knowledge we already have, whether it's from our university, our industries, or the ag community. They all are important. Again, thank you for allowing me to put in my 2 cents this morning, and thank you for joining this webinar. I look forward to our collective future success.
Thank you, Governor. We appreciate those comments. I see Jim McGagnon is on with us today, and I know that some of Jim's folks appreciate some of this global warming we've had the last couple of days. It's been a little rough calving in the sub-zero temperatures. I think that's reached all the way to about the middle part of Texas. So my hearts and thoughts go out to some of those guys fighting this pretty tough weather over the last few days. We'll get right to our program, though. We have Jeff Holder with us today from Synergy for Ecological Solutions, and he's going to go through a short PowerPoint, some really good information in it. So, Jeff, good morning, and we'll turn it over to you.
Hey, good morning, Dale. Thanks very much, and we really appreciate you and the Greater Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce hosting us, because really we're here with a group that's come together to talk about a brand new program. And really, like I said, we appreciate the chamber for hosting us. The 3 groups that are here are the Carbon Asset Network, and you'll hear more about each of these, but the Carbon Asset Network is a network of people who manage land. And that might be a row crop farmer, that could be a rancher, that could be someone who just has a lot of open land that they manage. It could be a golf course, it could be a park, right? So Carbon Asset Network collects these people together in a network. S4ES is the Synergy for Ecological Solutions. And that's not a company, that's a 501c3 registered nonprofit. And what they do is they pull together people who are wanting to make a difference to achieve what we call, and you'll hear this a lot today, climate wellness through soil health. And so this is the collection of the people we call change agents. You'll hear about that. But they're the people who are wanting to try to donate to make a difference. The third group is Encore Green Environmental, who is able to specialize in bringing water to come alongside the Carbon Asset Network for some of the soil health projects. So we got 3 groups here, but we're all talking about this one program. The program is called you360. It's called you because no matter who you are, you can participate in this. And part of it, and we'll talk about this in a second, but a lot of it is just trying to empower the people to say, I want to make a difference about our environment. No matter what you think about the environment, we all know it can always be improved. So that's the U of you360. It's 360 because that's a circle. And really what we're offering, what we're talking about is trying to create a total ecological solution. And we believe that this idea of us all working together, all looping together in a big circle, is really the way to understand what the program is about. We say it's a new dimension of ESG and sustainability. And by that we mean it's different than what you probably thought when you joined this webinar this morning. Because a lot of times what we have in our head when we think about carbon, we think about carbon sequestration, we think about this whole topic, the things that come to our mind are like cap and trade, maybe Al Gore, right? Maybe carbon credits, things you might have read on LinkedIn, you know, just a couple of days ago. And those all turn primarily on something called credits. And what we're talking about here is really actually a new dimension. It's a new paradigm. So I'd like to ask you just to set aside for a minute all your thoughts about what carbon farming, carbon sequestration, what all this is. Set it aside for a minute and let us kind of tell you a new way forward, a new way for us to accomplish this. So because we sometimes are having to educate people and sort of re-educate, because again, we have perceptions in our head, I want to tell you kind of what the program is by kind of telling you what it's not. First of all, it's not carbon credits. It's instead, you'll see on what it is, it's a donation model. So this isn't some kind of a tax incentive thing going on. It's really the funding to accomplish this program is going to come through donors. It's not protocols from cap and trade. The protocols are the requirements that the cap and trade program demands that you do, sometimes called NORI protocol. There's a few others. And they're looking for you to take your land for 10 years and dedicate it to this. There's kind of draconian kind of requirements, and actually they're not really practical. And that's kind of one reason why cap and trade hasn't really taken off really, or been embraced in a significant way. Instead, what we do is we have very manageable protocols. And part of the U and the you360 is to create protocols that can be customized around what you're wanting to do with your land while still accomplishing increased soil health. That's our goal, increased soil health, because we know that soil health leads to greater climate wellness. It's not one size fits all. That's the other part of the U in you360, is we come alongside, especially land stewards, and say, we want to customize this for you. It's not a government program. There are great government programs out there. That's fine. That's what they do. Instead, we're the private sector. What we're saying is we're coming alongside, and we believe that we have a better way forward that perhaps a government program can't accomplish, because we want to move quick, we want to be efficient, and we want to start accomplishing the goals as quickly as we can. So what we're doing, you360 brings together two groups of people. One group is called change agent, and that's people who want to help the environment, along with land stewards, those who manage the land. So really, you are going to fit into one or both of these categories, change agent or land steward. Let's break this down a little bit more. So a change agent is someone, like I said, who feels the need to want to try to help our environment. And it's a pervasive idea. 76% of Americans say that climate change is a crisis, or it's a major problem. And it's no longer just for the folks who are holding the Greenpeace signs. It's very pervasive. It's not just in the cities, though it certainly is. It's in the suburbs. It's even in the rural America. A study we just read yesterday was that in the state of Wyoming, 11 years ago, 17% of the people said they think climate change is a problem. Today, 32% think climate change is a problem. It's a growing idea. It's a growing concern. And part of it is that the millennial generation, the ones who have, since they were in diapers, have been being told and read about and heard about that there's a problem with our climate. They're now 40 years old. The oldest millennial is 40. And they're running businesses. They're managing farms. They're managing ranches. They're raising families. So this idea is no longer a fringe idea or just it's really pervasive. And these people, though, are frustrated. They're frustrated because they don't have anything they can do to help solve this problem that they've been hearing about their whole life. They're told to do simplistic things like, oh, well, separate your trash. Okay, well, that's a good thing, sure. They're told to eat vegan, to buy local, wait on the government to do something, or protest big oil. Right? These are just the things that you're told. If you want to help our climate, help our environment, these are the things you can do. And yet you360, working with these groups together, we're offering a tangible thing that they can take today. So it's a brand new thing for the people who are feeling the need and the concern. And it's a legitimate concern in their minds. They really want to solve this. We then bring together the other group, and that's the land stewards. And these are farmers, ranchers, people who manage land, who want to kind of do more regenerative ag practices, or want to make sure that the soil that they're managing is staying very healthy, improving in health, right? But in order to accomplish this, usually there's some kind of financing that's needed. There's a new source of funds, whether it's for new equipment or greater labor because of a different practice you're trying to do, or it doesn't always just happen. It's not just flipping a switch and do it different, right? It's going to take some kind of funding. And so the government programs, USDA and these kind of good programs, however, aren't really accomplishing it for a lot of land stewards. 40% say it's just too burdensome. 28% say it's just too difficult. There really hasn't been a program to empower the land steward to create their own program to have some source of financing in order to accomplish it until now. So what we're doing with you360 is we're bringing the change agent together with a land steward. So we got 3 groups. We got 1 program, all about the same mission: climate wellness through soil health. Okay. So let's break down climate wellness through soil health. Now I'm going to give you just a quick 10,000-foot version of photosynthesis. In our question and answer time, if you kind of want more clarity on this, our agronomist Neil Farringer is on the line. He'll be happy to explain to you about the intricacies of photosynthesis. I'm going to give you the 4th grade version, right? The version I learned in 4th grade is that photosynthesis really is just a very simple process that you take sunshine, you take water, you take vegetation and good soil, and you create this process of where carbon dioxide, carbon is pulled from the air and is locked into the soil and the roots, and a greater release of oxygen comes out into the air. Bad stuff down, good stuff up in terms of how we want to breathe. See, we're actually helping the soil by giving them carbon. It's not good for us to breathe, right? But it's great for the soil. They love carbon, man. So what we have here is then this little machine. Now, you know, we just read that Elon Musk is offering a $100 million prize to someone who can build a machine that can pull carbon out of the air. And yet right here, nature has a organic machine that can accomplish just that. So here's how the whole program works. Here's how it all comes together. We got a big circle here, right? We'll start at the very top, kind of at 12 o'clock, if you will, if this is a clock. And that starts with the change agents. And the change agents can be all sorts of different kinds of people from all different walks of life. It's someone who raises their hand and say, hey, I'm an individual, I'm a family, I want to try to make a difference. I'm going to donate toward soil health projects that will create climate wellness. You might be a business. Fortune 500 companies are committing to a thing called ESG. And that essentially is standing for a responsibility that not only do businesses have to do well, to return money back to their shareholders, but to also then accomplish something good in the process. And this idea has trickled down to the smallest of businesses, where consumers are wanting more and more to know that the people that they're working with, buying from, are going to take some of that money and do something good with it. It's no longer enough just to provide a service or a product. Businesses are being expected to try to accomplish something good in the world and be a positive force. So that money, the change agent, we'll just follow the circle around clockwise, right? The change agent donates to the 501c3, which is the nonprofit Synergy for Ecological Solutions. They get a tax-deductible receipt because it's a nonprofit. The nonprofit then, Synergy for Ecological Solutions, then grants money to the Carbon Asset Network for their network of land stewards. The money then flows to the land steward. The land steward might be, like I said, it can be someone who, like our icon here, has a row crop. It could be ranch. It could be a golf course, right? It's just someone who's managing a large, vast amount of land, because that's where the machine of photosynthesis will be most proactive. Encore Green Environmental, in some situations for some soil health projects, can come alongside the land stewards and be able to work with new sources of water, because one of the best ways to improve soil health, especially in the arid West, is to have water. Right? So we're just following the circle around. The change agents donate to the nonprofit. Nonprofit grants the money to the Carbon Asset Network, who then grants the money to the land stewards. If it keeps flowing there to the left, we're going clockwise, then what the land stewards do, they do the deed. They get greater soil, they get greater vegetation. That increases greater climate wellness, less carbon in the air. And those reports and those statistics and that action then fuels the change agents to say, hey, let's do it again. and the circle just starts all over again. So that, in a nutshell, is our program. So here's how it's going to kind of break down for different people who might be on this call. Every one of you is an individual. Many of you are part of a family. And through donations, you can empower land stewards. You can join the movement of trying to create climate wellness through soil health. And this is something that increasingly parents are feeling the need to, that they want to put into their children a sense of responsibility, a sense of social awareness, and a sense of generosity. And so right away, individuals and families can join in. Also, chambers, cities, towns, community leaders can also be involved. Dale, as the president of the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce, how are some ways that chambers, civic leaders, community leaders might be able to be involved?
Jeff, for chambers and civic leaders, I think as you look around the country, you have this drive by businesses, especially sizable businesses, but I think businesses of every size that are taking on more of I guess the best way to say it might be a social conscience of what's going on. So, they're trying to embrace what their customers and their employees want for sustainable food, to know where their food comes from, to have communities that are environmentally friendly. They want to provide and promote practices that are environmentally friendly. And so, from my view, we've got a number of these kinds of entities across the nation seeking ways to do this. So, to me, what we really provide is an opportunity for these folks to get involved really at a grassroots level, to help improve certainly ranchers and farmers, but also municipalities could employ some of these techniques to capture carbon and gain their environmental goals. But at the same time, we all know that putting that carbon in the soil is improving your ability to be profitable as an agricultural producer. Doesn't matter whether you're raising corn or cows, you need carbon in the soil and you need good soil health to be able to go after that endeavor. So I think there's some real opportunities, especially from the donation end for businesses to get involved with this and put money into improvement and sustainability. So that's how I feel that these guys can get involved, and so I'm looking forward to their participation.
Yeah, and one real way, as we've kind of talked about, uh, if you're a civic leader or you're involved in community leadership in any level, the people who you're serving are really feeling the need to have ESG goals met, to have some kind of good things going on for our environment and for these causes. And so the Synergy for Ecological Solutions can come alongside you to help promote that inside your own communities. We can do webinars like this localized for you. We can provide you with photo assets and videos and whatever you need. So look to us as a resource for you to try to accomplish this, to help spread the word amongst your constituencies, to allow them an opportunity, as well as Dale said, maybe as a municipality, you are overseeing land and you're finding ways that you want to find ways that you can be a little better steward of that land. Business and industry, like we have mentioned, large companies or small companies are all feeling this need to do this ESG. And I broke it out. ESG is environment, stewardship, governance, just an idea of doing good. Marvin Nash from Encore Green Environmental is here. And Marvin, why don't you talk to us a little bit about how businesses can get involved?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I kind of, as one of the founders of this, I do want to thank the governor for his comments, and I want to thank Dale. We can't thank you enough for giving us this platform and opportunity to reach out. My idea of actually having this at a chamber event came about from reading local newspapers where the Laramie group and the Jackson Hole group and the Casper group and a group of people were saying, we want to do something about these issues, but we don't know what to do. We're not sure. Is it up? Yeah. Oh, we're not sure exactly what we can do. And so our team came together. We had been working with the stock growers over a couple of years, but our team really came together to say, let's make something available. And then it got to be into the, the industrial side. Uh, if you keep up with these things, Bill Gates is on a book tour suggesting things that we need to do. Elon Musk offered up $100 million for technology, and for, pardon the pun, some of us down to earth guys, the technology's there. It's like we said, it's photosynthesis. So it's a grassroots approach. It's very doable, and it's not something that you have to have somebody do for you. Your farmers and ranchers and landowners and golf stewards and the greenskeepers, the city parks, the acreage that you have around maybe your water municipalities, all of these things can be used to help us solve our climate wellness initiatives. And so that's what we really are trying to work on. And so again, you360, you are the answer, whether you're the guy taking care of the football field, or whether you're the man and the lady, or the lady running the 10,000 acre ranch. The opportunity is there, and we understood the economics, which I think is Dale referred to that about you got to make it work economically. We had an understanding of the economics had to change. You can't have a program that changes at the whim of a president from whichever party they come from, and a complete change of agriculture management and all those kind of things. So we wanted to offer some economic stability in every way that we can. So like I say, if you're out there, you are part of the 360, and we know that corporations and companies and mom and pops and the backbone of this America now has an opportunity to participate in helping. And my wife, who helped found this company, it's always been about our two granddaughters. What do we do to leave this place better than the way it was when we got here? One of our first signups is a gentleman and a lady that have 6 grandkids. Even though they have a substantial amount of acreage, their 6 grandkids are not going to have enough acreage to make a living in the ag world. But if we can repurpose some water, if we can increase soil permeability, I mean, little things where we're at, even snow mass. If we can increase the soil absorption ratio, instead of having our minimum amount of snow that we've got this year, have our 6 or 8 or 10 inches run off into the creek or down the stream or just into the ditch, and we can get it to absorb from 3 to 6 inches to 6 to 9 or 12, now we're making ecological improvements. And you as a change agent has the ability to make that happen. And so I think that kind of summarizes where everybody can get involved, Jeff.
Great, thanks. And the final group that we're going to talk to or talk about today is how to be involved is really the land steward. And going to ask John Robitaille, who's the director of Carbon Asset Network, to tell us how land stewards can get involved.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. I'm just going to do this in a bit of a nutshell. There will be time after the slides to go a little deeper if we have some questions regarding it. But essentially, in a nutshell, what we do is we meet up with our partners, those that are developing their land and would like to join this program. And then we bring out a soil sampling truck. We use Neil Farringer, who is our agronomist. And he comes out and he samples to 24 inches. Now that's important because many of our range plants do root down to 24 inches. However, if we look at many of these programs that are out there already, they only monitor to 6 inches. We feel that if the root zone goes to 24, we ought to sample to 24. That gives us a baseline. We get those soil samples to a verified lab. They give us a baseline for exactly what we have in the soil. And then we can collaborate with the landowner and our agricultural expertise to come up with a very customized plan specific to your land. Now, these plans may include things like we would like a different seed mix. We would like to try to handle some of our weeds, whether that be a cheatgrass or perhaps some kind of a noxious weed. It could include a different type of grazing, different water in different places to actually utilize your range much better. The way we do this, as Jeff explained, CAN gets the money from the Synergy for Ecological Solutions. Now, that money is then funneled to our land partners, where we provide them at least 70% of the donation that we've received. That 70% will be handed to each landowner over a period of 12 months, once every 12 months. And we'd like to see that money spent back in the local community, whether that's at the local lead and pest, whether that's at your local feed store, however we need to do, whatever we need to do, however that money needs to be spent for your customized plan, that's how we'd like it to be spent. It's important to note that these plans are not required. They are highly recommended, but they are not required to be in our program. Many government agency programs are required to do this. There are some private programs that require very specific fertilizers be used, that sort of thing. And one other real key factor here, as a land steward, because of our connection with Synergy for Ecological Solution, the land steward pays nothing out of pocket for this program. That's very important to note. If we happen to have some kind of oil or gas operation on the property and they're producing water, we can use Encore Green Environmental to repurpose that water for beneficial uses, which in my mind will only improve industry and landowner relations. It was mentioned a little earlier that our special guest, Jim Magagna with the Wyoming Stock Growers Association, is on the line with us. Jim, would you mind giving us some of your thoughts on how you feel about this program?
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity, and I will back up a bit perhaps to when we were first approached by Marvin and these ideas were laid out in front of us. It fit very well within a broader goal that we have as representing the ranching industry in the state, and that is knowing the economic challenges that ranching faces, to provide our ranchers and our farmers with additional opportunities for revenue that are consistent with the fundamental basic operations they have on their land. And with that general approach, this immediately fell into line for us, because here is a chance for a landowner to receive a revenue source from doing basically what most of our dedicated landowners in the state are already doing. They're taking care of their land, they're managing it, whether it's for grazing or for crop production, in a manner that promotes healthy soil. It's been interesting to me, if I go back 25 years, soil health was a term that I seldom heard from a rancher. Yet it's something they've been doing for multi-generations in order to keep their operations economically viable. Regenerative agriculture is a term that until recent years was used by academia and by researchers, but not by farmers and ranchers over the coffee cup in the local restaurant. That is changing, and there's interest in these programs now. The real advantage I see for those who would embrace this program here is that they're not only are they identifying and providing an additional source of revenue, but by caring for their soil, whether it's just by grazing practices, rotational grazing, or by putting some repurposed water on it. They're increasing the amount of forage that's going to be available for their livestock as well. So it's from our perspective, a win-win for many ranchers. And it's one that can have appeal to many of our people who are justifiably hesitant about government programs of this type. So we're just happy to be involved with this, to play a role in making the ranching and community in Wyoming aware of this opportunity, and working with you, John, and others to deliver a real benefit. And just within the last couple of weeks, we're seeing stories that have made national headlines about ranchers in other parts of the country who have undertaken doing something like this and very significantly increased their overall income to their ranching operations. So we would like to see Wyoming be able to move forward now in a fairly rapid manner to become known as a leader in terms of this type of carbon sequestration, which is consistent with what we're already doing as ranchers in the state. Appreciate the opportunity, John.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jim. We before we go to questions, wanted to just leave you with this slide, and that is this is your next step. If you're interested in this, and you're kind of thinking about it, this is the way to deal with us. Is just actually talk to me, and I'll route you to the right person. Connect you with John, connect you with Marvin, connect you with whoever we got to be connecting with. And here's the phone number, here's the email, and here's our website. And that's how the best next step for you is just to reach out. Now, we'd love to have questions now. If anybody has any questions, I'll turn it over to Dale. You can kind of manage our Q&A time here.
Thank you, Jeff. Happy to take any questions from the group that you might have. We don't have so many on here that we can't just speak right up, I think. So just unmute yourself and ask a question if you have one. Don't everybody ask at once.
Well, this is Neil Farringer, the agronomist for the group. While people are thinking of their questions, I'll address the question, why can? I have researched a number of these carbon sequestration programs in developing our program as the Director of Agronomy for Environmental Green. Well, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, we were in Wyoming making a sweep and working with the landowners. We soil sampled 20,000 acres. In 5 days, we brought home 76 soil sample sets. As John was said, that we have go down to 24 inches. So our sampling increments are 0 to 6, which is like everybody else, but then we also go to 6 to 24. In a number of samples that we took around the Douglas area, there is as much carbon, or nearly as much carbon, in the 6 to 24 inch depth as there is in the 0 to 6 inch depth. I was doing a presentation in Worland the other day, and I was looking at about irrigation, and they were talking about rooting depth. And John had talked about, well, we know that range plants root to 24 inches. Well, corn roots to 3 feet is what they figure. Winter wheat is 4 to 6 feet. The pinto beans is like 30 inches. So why are we stopping at 6 inches to determine our carbon and what it's sequestering? Yes, there's the concentration is much less as the deeper you go, but there is more. There's as much carbon because we've got 18 inches instead of 6 inches. So the other big item in regard to us versus carbon sequestration programs, or another item, is that we do a soil health test on the 0 to 6. So as Jeff said, and we've seen on different slides, that it's soil health, or we're doing climate wellness through soil health. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my own words here. That is the key, to stop its carbon sequestration. Are we really looking at what the soil is doing? The soil is a dynamic medium, and there are different microbes in the soil. As we were on this webinar, I was looking at some different carbon articles, but one of them said, I'll read it from the beginning. It's from theconversation.com. And it says, human society is literally built on soil. It feeds the world and produces vital fuel and fiber. But most people rarely give soil a second thought. And I think that really drives home what this program is about. The you360 is you walk on the ground, it's solid, but what's happening underneath? As an agronomist, I think about that all the time. What is going on as we put water on, as we put fertilizer on, we plant the crops? It's a dynamic system, and it's living and breathing. So one of the parts of the soil health test that we're using, the Haney test, which was developed by Rick Haney, an NRCS agent, and I think he began this like 20 years ago at least, and is a national recognized test, is they look at water-soluble carbon, water-soluble nitrogen, and the third really major tenet to it is the CO2 burst. And what that is they take a volume of soil, put it in a container, re-wet it, and monitor it for 20, put a strip in it that absorbs carbon dioxide. The common one that people use is called a Savita strip. And after 24 hours, they pull it out and analyze how much carbon dioxide is there. We did a real sandy location in northeast Wyoming or Utah. The carbon health score was like in the 2s. I've looked at other ones. The soil health is at 12. Well, the more diversity that's in the soil, more microbe activity, the more CO2 burst there's going to be. And that aids in releasing nutrients that are tied up in insoluble forms. And so that gives you the higher soil health score. So we are really, it's a disservice to look at just carbon sequestration, because what we're doing is going holistic all the way to the end. And if we improve soil health, the carbon sequestration is going to come along. So the other thing about our program is, and it's been alluded to, is most of these programs that are out there for carbon sequestration and people to join or to buy carbon credits are designed for large companies. They want to get the large companies. Well, what is the individual and the small business? I'm in Montana. We have primarily small businesses that are the backbone of the state, as well as Wyoming, and even Colorado, New Mexico, Nebraska, North and South Dakota. Well, you have all those people that are wanting to do something that it's harder to get involved. Well, the donation program here, you can go do something about climate wellness through soil health. It's for everybody, the individual to large companies. Yeah. Another thing that's been talked about a little bit that it just gets me is that all these programs are basically carbon sequestration programs are toward the Midwest and farmland. I haven't come across one that would address how a landowner in the Great Plains that has rangeland or probably even dry land, non-irrigated farmland, how they would be involved. I had a conference call with the world's largest fir company, and they've paraded out their program. And the first tenant, they're offering up to $100 an acre the first year, but there's only 3 tenants that qualify you. The first one is reduced tillage. And if you did it before 2020, for the year of 2021 signing, it doesn't count that you've done that already, because they're strictly looking at how much more carbon you're doing. Yeah. The next one is planting cover crops. Are you going to plant cover crops? Well, again, the no-till and the cover crop issue doesn't apply to people across the Great Plains that have rangeland. The other one is the third one that gives you up to $25 an acre is to use their nitrogen management program, which at this point in time is only valid for corn. So where does that leave the dryland farmer that's been no-tilling to this point and doesn't want to do cover crops? Yeah. So but anyway, those are why this program is easy to use and also in a league of its own.
Great. Thanks, Dale. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we got a question from Holly, Jeff, and I think it's a good one. Maybe John would want to take this, but John, the question is there a minimum amount of land required? And maybe you can go a little further with that and maybe not just a minimum of land, but how big of an operator do you have to be to participate with something like this? I'm a small operator myself, and got a quarter, rent a couple of about 300 acres of grassland. Is there opportunity for me here, or are we just talking about some of our larger producers?
Thank you, Dale. That's a very good question, and I want to make it clear that any acreage is open to this program. We actually have two here in Casper that Neil was good enough to come and do some sampling on. One of them was 30 acres and one of them was 40 acres. So really any open space, we're happy to look at parks in a city or town. We're happy to look at golf courses. There's golf courses all over. Any acreage that you have, as long as it's at least 1 acre, because we do sponsor these things on a per acre basis. So as long as we're 1 acre or above, we're more than happy to take a look at it and enroll you in the program. So thank you very much for that, Holly.
Other questions that you might have out there about the program or how you can be involved in it?
Also, if you don't want to ask it, you can also just hit the chat button down below, and that will also, we'll be able to see your question and we can just read it, kind of like how we just did. One of the questions I think that is often asked of us is just how does the program work for a land steward as it relates to comparing it? Like how is it customized? What is the process? You had mentioned, John, a MOU, but just kind of how does, like, if from the time they say, hey, tell me about it, and then like how does that do? How does that time when we sit down with Neil and others talk about maybe that of creating the plan?
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So individual plans are specific to each operation. So there may be an operation that has a hay field, a horse pasture, and they graze it with cattle the rest of the place. That operation we would specify. The hay field, we would suggest doing this. The horse pasture, we would suggest doing this. The grazing pasture, you've got water that's 4 miles away. Maybe we need to get water closer, or look at some kind of a rotational grazing program, or something like that. At any rate, each program is going to be individualized for that specific producer. Each program is going to be where we sit down with the landowner and we say, okay, what are your goals? What would you like to see? And then we can work towards that together and try to find a way to help create how that's going to work. And then we use that money that comes in to help implement that program. So that's basically how this is going to come together for us.
Great. Marvin, I think you were going to do a shout out.
Yeah, I want to do a shout out. I noticed Rich Bradbury is there. Rich was he and I met on LinkedIn, and he's helped us and helped spread our word, and is a true supporter of the word network. And so as we network, he's there in Washington. Rich, I'm going to invite everybody to find you on LinkedIn and join you. He's quite a good creative writer, and we really started becoming friends in our mission on soil health and stuff. So I want to do a shout out to Rich. And the other thing that John just brought up, we've started seeing human interest involvement in an area that I don't think we thought we were going to see that. You know, we're seeing people saying, we have one gentleman that we were going to go do 900 acres outside of Chugwater, and we ended up with an MOU for 6,500. His wife's family owned some land. He wanted to improve it, but the economics of the way the LLC and everything was set up didn't make that possible. But this young man wanted to stay on the land. He wanted to be a land steward. He wanted to be a rancher, and it's tough. It's not for the weak of heart. But he saw the opportunities that Synergy for Ecological Solutions, Carbon Asset Network, those things could possibly bring to him to help accomplish that goal. And at the end of the day, Dale and I've been sitting here chatting on when everything was on mute. Dale's an Oklahoma boy from the farm, and we were chatting back and forth. At the end of the day, we're starting to see the reality of the people that are getting involved in this network. And so that's a real important factor. It goes back to that, or does it go back to that boardroom where they're writing the dividend checks, but the investors are saying to those people writing those checks, yeah, we want to make money, but we want to be making money from a company that has good stewardship. The agriculture world, that's just kind of their day-to-day mantra. That's how they survive. And so it's exciting to see these things starting to happen. But anyway, Rich, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Just wanted to say that publicly.
We have a couple more questions on chat, Dale, if you see that.
I do. So the first one is from Darren. How would produced water from oil and gas fit into this program? You want to take that, Marvin, or you can start and then.
That may be a Marvin Nash question. So go back several years. Somebody asked us to, actually our son that unfortunately passed away, we were working in the oil field. He had some trucks that were loaded with produced byproduct water. We figured out how to use it in a process. At that point, being from South Texas and understanding the value of water from anybody that's in an arid country, I thought, man, why are we wasting this water? I became a quick study of Elmwood Mead, who was our state engineer, of how water got started in Wyoming. And Wyoming has really laid the foundation for a lot of state water laws. Started looking for the technology, went through the permitting process, answered some of the environmentalist questions of can we do this safely, created a patent process called conservation by design so that we batch water and no water goes to the ground if it does not have the engineer's seal of approval and the DEQ seal of approval. So it's just been an ongoing process. In Wyoming, we did have a lot of coal bed methane waters at one time. And we found out that it really wasn't a problem with the water. It was the application, the quantities, and the volumes. So I was, my wife and I were fortunate enough to put together a team of individuals that understood these challenges. Neil Farringer's got more catalogs on coal bed methane water than probably anybody in the United States. He's testified at hearings on some things. John Robitaille is got a degree in soil science. So those team members came together. We found technology to make it affordable. And so that's been the process. But I may be a little off on my numbers, but I think we sent 18 billion barrels, maybe it's gallons, of water into the ground that we just wasted. And technology has improved so that we no longer have to do that. And it's very important to understand we can do it safely. That, sometimes the environmentalists think that if you're ask them a question or find a solution to their problem, you're being combative to what they want. The environmental group, they've been our biggest supporter by asking us questions and expressing their concerns, because we value their concerns and those problems have to be solved. We've just been blessed enough and fortunate enough and had a good enough team to solve those problems. So Darren, I hope that answers your question. It's just a byproduct that's been being put to a waste that no longer needs to be wasted.
Thank you for that. I do see we have another question. Richard Bradbury would like to ask a question. So Richard, if you'd unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
So I also have a oil and gas background, and I think what you guys were able to do with the water is just tremendous. And then to reimagine it and bring up and start creating more agricultural lands where there was an opportunity never to have any is amazing. And I could say the amount of water that gets used in the oil field, while it has an ultimately good end, is just tremendous amounts of water. It's amazing. So it's good to capture that back and get it back and having a positive effect on the landscape. My question is, so when you look out 5 years from now, what do you envision this organization looking like as it evolves? And then so you can donate and you can make yourself feel good, and the person that donates can feel good about having donated to a positive program on the land. Will there be like a future that, so they can, if it's a nonprofit, so they can write it off, but would there be a future where they can also write off the carbon that they save, or have some sort of value that's tax deductible to them in the future?
Well, that would actually be dependent upon what kind of federal programs go in place. There's already a very established program with the IRS that if you donate toward a registered charity, you get to take a tax deduction off your income taxes. Somebody else would have to figure that out if there is that. We maybe, but right now our real focus is, aren't we all kind of tired of waiting for federal government to solve our problems? Let's just do it now. Maybe there might be that kind of a program in the future. In the past, though, those have come with a lot of strings that have been protocols that really aren't manageable. But maybe in the future, something great would happen. But right now, we're really focused on how can we empower the people who want to try to change the environment, and let that be the end. Just as you might give $1 to a homeless guy or write a check to support some nonprofit, there's a sense of people wanting to do that. So yeah, maybe there'll be a great government program sometime, but right now we don't have that.
Jeff, let me refer part of that question to John Robitaille, who does our government affairs, and then let me, before I do that, John, I was thinking about was Q45 or whatever that is that's out there, and maybe if we have any Wyoming government officials that are engaged, maybe Wyoming could create some type of taxable refund or whatever for carbon assets that originate in Wyoming to be shared across the United States. There's no joke about it. The energy industry decline has brought several states, New Mexico and Wyoming, and their funding sources are being challenged. So I think there is some opportunities, Rich. That's a great question looking out 5 years ahead. But John, maybe you can refer to I think it's Q45 and some of the IRS activities.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Marvin. So to really answer this question, I got to step back just a touch and really dive into Darren's question a little bit more. Darren's question was how does produced water fit into this program? Well, produced water, if we can clean that water to the standards that we're given standards through Wyoming DEQ, and then we can put that water to beneficial use. whether that be simply adding some kind of precipitation to native rangeland. What that will do is it will improve the soil at a faster rate. So when we improve the soil at a faster rate, we increase our forage cover faster, and then that in turn helps us with more root storage, so that we're actually pulling that carbon out of the air faster through CO2. Photosynthesis takes place, and we're storing that carbon dioxide in the ground in the forms of starches in the roots. So to really answer this question, we have to look at the bigger picture. If we have an additional water source, we can do it faster. If we don't have an additional water source, that's okay. These range plants out here have really been, they've evolved to this point where they can handle these types of shifts from maybe a wet year to the next year. It's almost a extreme drought. They can handle that. That's what they've been. They've been evolution and have created themselves the ability to actually survive in that type of environment. Now, the key to Rich's question almost is how much can we get carbon? How much can we really store? And if we store it and we prove we're storing it, how do we get a tax credit for that? That's a difficult question to answer at this point. Right now in Congress, they've passed a bill. It was called 45Q. It was directed towards very large emitters, power plants and the like. Now, what that was designed for, it was designed for these large emitters to put scrubbers on and that sort of thing, and actually prevent those gases from escaping out of their stacks out into the environment. And when you did that, you were given a tax reduction or a reduction through the IRS. Now, we've been talking with Wyoming's delegation. Is there a way to create a system similar to that for capturing carbon in the soil? We're still in discussions. As far as I know, the actual rule from IRS and EPA regarding the 45Q has not been finalized. So there's some trepidation there. And we all know how quickly Congress moves. It could be a long time before we see anything like that out of Congress. Marvin brings up the point, is there something we can do in Wyoming? Perhaps. If we can find a way to actually monitor the amount and have it certified, the amount over time that we are actually storing is improving, and we can start with our baseline and we can say after 5 years we've increased the soil organic carbon by X amount. Perhaps there's a way that we can find some kind of a tax incentive to increase the use of this type of a program. If in fact we could do that, our legislators, many of them belong to nationwide groups, and perhaps something like that could spread to other states and eventually to Congress. But to answer your question, Rich, yes, we are looking at it. We're dealing with various avenues to look at it, and we hope to eventually come to a foregone conclusion that it will work. And it will incentivize people to join programs similar to ours.
Thank you, John. We probably can take one more question, although we're kind of at the end of our time here. It's about 5 after 11, and we want to be mindful of of everyone's time. So we will have this available to everyone. You can come to the Cheyenne Chamber and go to our YouTube channel, and you can search that on YouTube, and it'll be there. I know that uh, Jeff and Marvin and these guys would be happy to get you a copy of the program. They are certainly willing and able to answer any questions that you might have. Jeff, you or Marvin, have any final thoughts for us? Marvin said, "Good."
Yeah, for me, I'm just grateful for everybody who joined. We would love to chat with you. You can just go to s4es.org and hit contact. You can contact us, as well as we'll also post this webinar content on our website, as well as it being on the chamber site. So we're grateful to all of you.
You know, I would just leave you one closing thought, folks. I'm kind of in a unique situation for this. I think I'm a farm kid who does have a small operation, but I hang out with a lot of these businesses and chambers and business from around the country. And I really think there's a lot of opportunity for agriculture here. You know, I was showing cattle in Oklahoma City at our national show a few weeks back. And a couple of agriculture producers were talking about this change and what consumers want. And you know, what do they want? They want to know where their beef comes from. They want to know how it was treated. They want to know that the person on the other end was a good steward of land and livestock. And at the same time, I've never met an agriculture producer that isn't willing to do the best for his livestock and tries to do the best for their land. So even though we don't communicate that between those groups very well sometimes, the goals are the same. And I think that's a tremendous opportunity for us to really solve some problems that are important to all of the groups of people we talked about today. So we thank everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to engaging with you in the future. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their week. Thank you, everyone.